The tapping had stopped the moment my fingers touched the bathroom door. Silence slammed into me with such force that my entire body shook. My heartbeat thudded in my ears, each pulse hammering against my skull, drowning out everything else, the low hum of the air conditioner, the faint creaking of the motel walls, even the muted sounds of distant traffic outside. I stood frozen for what felt like hours, hand trembling above the handle, staring at the mirror across the room. The glass was fogged slightly, a thin layer of condensation that made my reflection look blurry, distorted. But even through the haze, I could see it, my own eyes, wide and terrified, staring back at me, sunken and dark-rimmed, cheeks hollowed, my jaw clenched as if the fear had begun carving pieces of me away. Then I noticed it. A handprint. Perfect. Flat. Fingers spread wide. Pressed against the inside of the mirror, leaning toward me. Not smeared, not fading, but solid and deliberate, as though someone had been studying me in the reflection, memorizing every line of my face, every detail of my expression. My knees gave way. I stumbled backward, colliding with the wall, gasping as my chest heaved. My hands shook uncontrollably as I fumbled for the light switch. The flickering fluorescent bulb sputtered on, buzzing, then died. Darkness returned, suffocating, heavy, as if it had weight. And then I felt it. Behind me. Close. Breathing against my neck. Warm. Damp. The faint metallic scent of iron, like blood, drifted into my nostrils. And then a whisper, impossibly soft, impossibly close. Daniel. I ran. By sunrise, I was demanding security footage at the motel. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the coffee I clutched for courage. The clerk reluctantly loaded the video, muttering about the cameras being old and prone to glitches, but his eyes flicked nervously to me more than once as if he had begun to believe in the story before I even spoke it. On the screen, it began. 2:11 a.m. My motel room door. Closed. Silent. Normal. 2:12 a.m. The handle moved. Slow. Deliberate. Tested. 2:13 a.m. The door opened, from the inside. No one entered. No one left. Nothing walked in, nothing walked out. It stayed open for 3 full minutes, swinging gently, almost politely, as if the door itself were aware of my presence, aware of me watching, aware of the terror brewing in my chest. Then, at 2:16, it closed softly. Quiet. Perfectly. Like someone had practiced it over and over. Maybe it's a glitch, the clerk said, voice low. I laughed. Hysterically. Brokenly. Shaky laughter that sounded more like a scream trapped in my throat. I was on my bed, I said, voice cracking, awake. Watching. Wide awake. The door opened anyway. The clerk swallowed, eyes wide. He didn't respond. I knew it. I wasn't imagining it. He doesn't break in. He waits. He observes. He already knows. The messages began again as soon as I got into my car, my hands still trembling from the motel footage. One after another, each arriving faster than I could block it. No typing indicator, no delay, no hesitation. Just words, sharp and precise, cutting into my chest like a knife. Rule 1, don't run. Rule 2, you cannot hide where I can hear you. Rule 3, locks are for comfort, not safety. Rule 4, you notice patterns. I like that. Rule 5, you learn fast. But you still don't understand. You are not the first. You will not be the last. My knuckles cracked as I gripped the steering wheel so tightly I thought my hands might break. Then I noticed it. Scratched shallowly into the dashboard. Daniel. Not messy. Not random. Careful. Deliberate. As if he had reached inside my car when I wasn't looking, leaned over, and etched my name into the surface for me to see later. I shivered, my body rigid, my mind screaming with dread, yet I couldn't look away from those letters. That night, I didn't sleep. Not because of the tapping. Not because of doors. The voices came. Whispering, sliding through the vents, the walls, and even the ceiling. Not loud. Not threatening. Not yet. But persistent. Insistent. Slipping into my skull like smoke. My mother, softly, over and over, "Calm down, Daniel. It's okay." My old boss, criticizing, echoing, "You always overthink everything. You never take action." A friend I hadn't spoken to in years, laughing, repeating jokes I didn't remember telling. And then, him. Soft. Patient. Cold. "You notice me because you are alone. You hear me because you listen. You matter because you pay attention." I pressed my hands over my ears until my knuckles bled. I wanted to scream. But the sound wouldn't come. My name repeated again and again, bouncing in echoes through my skull, inhuman, endless. I felt my sanity slipping. I had thought I had escaped. A new city. A new apartment. Cash only, no social media, no trace of me anywhere. I had tried so hard to convince myself I was safe. For 3 days, the apartment was quiet. Too quiet. Nothing happened. No sounds in the walls, no knocking on doors, no tapping in the bathroom. I began to relax slightly, letting my guard down, thinking maybe I had finally outsmarted him. Then, on the 4th night, I noticed apartment 2C across the hall. I had walked past it countless times before, never giving it a second thought. But now, at exactly 6:40 p.m., the light inside flicked on. A shadow appeared under the door, a figure that didn't move, didn't breathe, didn't make a sound. It was as if the darkness itself had taken shape, waiting, watching. I knocked, my knuckles rattling against the metal door. No response. The handle was warm, impossibly warm, as though someone had been holding it just moments before. I tried turning it, but it was locked. Yet the presence was there, pressing against me, heavy and insistent. I stepped back, my chest tight, hands trembling, sweat beading on my forehead. And in that moment, I realized, it wasn't just across the hall. It had already known I was there, had been waiting for me. That night, I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. Every sound, the hum of the refrigerator, the faint creak of the ceiling, even the wind brushing against the window, felt like him. And I knew I had only begun to understand the depth of what I was dealing with. Desperation drove me to the landlord the next morning. I needed answers. I had to know who, or what, I was dealing with. He was reluctant at first, wringing his hands, voice low, as if speaking too loudly would call it out. "There have been incidents," he said. "Tenants vanish. Strange noises. Shadows in corners. Complaints that doors open by themselves. Reports filed with police, but no suspects. Names crossed out, files shredded. Something attaches itself to certain people." I stared at him, my mind trying to process his words, heart hammering in my chest. "Attaches itself?" I asked, voice barely above a whisper. "Yes," he said. "To people who live quietly, who notice too much, who keep to themselves. It watches, waits, studies, and sometimes, it follows. They think they're safe. They're not. How does it end?" I asked, though a part of me didn't want to know. He didn't answer. His silence filled the room. And for the first time, I realized how hopeless this was. There were no rules. No safety. Only observation, waiting, patience. That night, at 3:47 a.m., I uncovered the only mirror in the apartment that hadn't been obscured by furniture or cloth. A single flickering light bulb cast long, wavering shadows across the room. My own reflection stared back at me, pale and hollow-eyed, the dark circles beneath my eyes deepening with each sleepless night. I whispered, barely audible, "Show yourself." The reflection smiled. Not me. Something else. Something behind me, leaning just out of sight. I felt it then, breath warm against my neck, damp, metallic. "You finally understand," it whispered, voice patient, intimate, terrible. I spun around. Nothing. Just shadows, stretching long and impossibly dark, as though the room itself had changed shape. I looked back at the mirror. My reflection was normal again. But I knew it wasn't alone. I could feel its gaze, patient and unrelenting, burrowing into my mind, forcing me to understand something I wasn't ready to face. The messages stopped. Silence, heavy and suffocating. I thought maybe, for the first time, it had left me alone. A note appeared on my doorstep. Handwritten. Clean. Simple. Terrible. "You don't escape. You continue. Or you pass me on." I stared at it for minutes, my hands trembling, my stomach twisting. Pass me on. What did that mean? I understood then that it wasn't just stalking me, it was teaching me, training me, preparing me. Preparing me to choose. To involve someone else. I couldn't move. I couldn't think. The note burned in my hands as I reread it. And I knew, what came next would not just test my courage. It would test my sanity. That night, I sat in the dark, heart hammering, unable to sleep. At exactly 6:40 a.m., footsteps stopped outside my door. I could feel the presence, heavy, waiting. The door handle slowly turned. "Choose," it whispered. I froze. My muscles locked, my heart thundering in my ears. I wanted to run, to hide, to scream, but my body refused. The handle rattled again. Gentle. Almost impatient. I swallowed hard, trying to steady my breathing. My mind raced through possibilities, none of them good. Then silence. I waited. Minutes. Hours. Nothing. I didn't dare move, didn't dare breathe too loudly. And when I finally opened my eyes, I was alone. But the weight of its presence lingered. Whatever choice I had made, whatever it had allowed me to survive, it wasn't over. Not even close. Now, I lived somewhere quiet. Across the hall, a new tenant moved in last week. Tall. Thin. Pale. Every evening, as the sun dips below the horizon, he stands outside his door. Watching. Silent. Patient. Waiting. Tonight, he stared at someone else. Someone new. Someone unaware. I watched from my apartment window, heart pounding. I could see the tension in their shoulders, the slight twitch in their hands, the way they didn't dare look around too quickly. For the first time, I am not being watched. I am watching. And I know the game isn't over. Even now, I feel it. In the shadows. In the walls. In the quiet hum of electricity in my apartment. Somewhere, he is still waiting. Patient. Observing. Planning. And I know, deep down, that it will not stop until it chooses again.